Good morning, self-lovers. Welcome back to the Self-Love Show. I'm your co-host, Dawn Light, and my beautiful sister here, Trish Wright, is with me. Today is a special day. Every week, we're so lucky to be present here with you, and Trish will be teaching today and sharing some really golden nuggets about reassurance. I'll do a little intro of her introduction in a second. And for those that are new, welcome. And we also are on all the platforms. So we want to invite you to just go explore all the other places, YouTube, all the different places that we exist, because there's lots of gems and nuggets, golden nuggets from like the whole previous, all of through the pandemic and beyond. So we just want to invite you there because if you have someone in your life that's maybe struggling with a certain topic, we might have a show that might cover that. So we want to give you freedom and space to go explore. And today is a really powerful opportunity to explore reassurance. And who doesn't need more of this in their life? So I'm going to read Trisha's amazing topic. So, reassuring your partner and loved ones brings a feeling of security and connection that is essential to healthy relationships. The world often creates an environment where we are not encouraged to be generous with our time, attention, and reassurance, particularly in the digital age. The truth is, if you want to develop meaningful connections, if you want to nurture strong relationships and grow positive bonds, then you need to be generous with your reassurance. Reach out, communicate often, and make sure those people you care about feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Ultimately, the power of reinforcement can help build the trust required for healthy collaborative interaction. Trish Wright is a sex relationship coach whose heart centered approach prioritizes cultivating deeper, intimate connections. She educates her clients on sex and relationships while providing insightful strategies to resolve conflicts and increase intimacy. Beautiful. She's been trained in various methods such as holotropic breathwork, nonviolent communication, BDSM, conscious erotic sexual practice, holistic hypnosis. These tools have given her the extensive knowledge necessary to help her clients achieve the true potential for healthy sex education, sex coaching, and relationships. Through her work dispelling codependent and trauma bonds, she equips individuals with the power to repattern old habits into empowered decisions. When it comes to sex coaching, Trish Wright is your go-to expert. Yes, love that. So we're going to do something that we always do in the back end of the show, but we're just going to invite you into our private moment we share every time we do a show. We do a centering and a prayer calling in the light. So I'm going to guide us through that right now, and we're going to do it live with you. So we're just hope you can be present with us. And I'm going to click on, all right, so comments. All right, so I just invite you into close your eyes if you can. If you're driving, please don't. And for those that are listening later, so just go ahead and tune into your breath. Place your heart on your hand, place your hand on your heart and take a deep centering breath. And allowing whatever that is present before to just fall away and just be here in the now, right here, centered in the now. In your already beautiful open heart. We're just going to call in the light. Father, Mother, God, creator of all that is, divine mother, Holy Spirit, we invite you in. We invite you into this sacred connection and container. We ask for your blessing and clearing in our consciousness today, and anything that is available to be lifted and cleared be done so in your light and your grace. We ask for greater levels of upliftment inside our consciousness to be available and accessible. We ask for clarity, direction, ease and grace to step into our life in every area where our life is maybe holding challenge or curriculum that's strong and challenging and difficult. We ask for an available, accessible way to cleanse the lens of perception around the way we see it, around the way we feel it, the way we hold it. We ask for greater levels of understanding and communication with you, Spirit. We ask to open the channel of light from the column of light from your heart, God, to ours, anchoring your light into our life and bathing every part of our life with your light and your loving, knowing that we live in your grace and that we embody your grace, your truth. This day is for you. This life is for you. The heartbeat that we beat is yours and ours, and we share in it. We share in this loving expression. and tuning into the love that you feel in your heart, the love for your life. Think of every area of your life that you've experienced the greatest level of joy, the greatest level of intimacy and loving. Breathe in that loving and compassion towards yourself and bathe every part of your aura and your experience in loving. This moment, this now moment, is connected to yourself and all parts of life. And we just send the light out to the world and send the light out ahead to every person in the world and every experience happening in this earth plane existence. We just ask for your grace and your light to stream forth. Ease and grace, ease and grace, ease and grace. And centered in the seat of our holiness with you, Spirit. Thank you. It is so. And so it is. Take it away.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. See, you know, I reminded Dawn this morning of, she was like, oh, we're going to change it up. And I was like, it's our show. We can do whatever we want with it. Let's just, but it's fun to let you in on it, right? For everyone who's listening and watching, there's things that happen in the background for half an hour every day that we come here. We sit with each other and we'll give our brief of what's kind of up for us in our world. And then we'll have we'll share how the show works to one of our guests, and then we'll have a centering prayer. And we've been talking for a long time about letting you all in, because Dawn's prayers are epic, like epic every week. Like, you've got like a PhD in epic prayers.
They're never the same. You can say that.
They are never the same, and they are always so deeply touching. You know, the thing that I want to talk about today is something that was one of the people, or one of the not people, one of the foundational pieces in last week's self-secure class. And it's called Reassurance, Reassurance, Reassurance. Or in other words, how reassurance can change your life, or whatever tagline you might be wanting to would be like, oh, but really what I wanted to talk about is the importance of, I'm not even going to call it words of affirmation, but reassurance that people are still connected. You know, we're living like post-COVID. Well, not that it's not still here and we're not still living through this moment, but post-quarantine and post-lockdown. And we're living in a place where we're hitting dopamine buttons literally all the time, and things are happening so quick, and we see all these people on Instagram doing whatever cool, amazing things, and we see all of this things that might not exactly be maybe like what's really truly happening on the inside. And it starts to distort our minds. It starts to distort how we're thinking, how we move in the world, how we feel about ourselves. And I've been really thinking a lot lately about generosity of spirit, or generosity of attention, generosity of kindness. And one of the pieces that I wanted to bring in is something that I love about Love Coach Academy and Scott Thomas, is this aspect of heavy weighted like push for reassurance. And I've been thinking a lot about how that just shifts a lot of things, right? So you've probably heard on this show many times before, if you've ever watched any Love Coach Academy stuff, or the Awakening World, or anything like that, we're talking about this a lot. So let's say there's a big conflict between you and your partner, or you and a family member, and it's obvious that you both need space to calm your nervous systems, to come back into caring for the other person. And some people do it where it's like, I need space, and then just go away. But what can happen is that severs the connection, because there's a lot of places where many of us have lived either through trauma, are in trauma, or have ways of like their attachment systems have been disrupted in their early childhood, which means that there's some insecurity there. We are living in a codependent society where insecurities are seen as bad and wrong. So a lot of people often will stoke their ego with like this false sense of confidence, which is not really founded in like a self-secure place, but in like, I need to look good to get validation and connection and all of these things.
Mhm.
So if we could be 5 words of generosity could change your life. If you want to just inject it every day, anytime there's a little thing, like, hey, gosh, you know when someone says, I don't know about you, but I have this trigger, but when someone says, we need to talk. I mean, they just might be like, hey, we need to talk. It's been a long time. I want to talk to you. And I might be like, if they were just like, hey, I love you. I miss you. I want to talk. Wow. That changes the whole dynamic, right? So if I needed space from someone and I say, I love you, I'm really invested in this relationship, I also need space because I don't want to be a bitch. 12 minutes. That I don't want to be, like, I love you. I care about you. I'm invested in this relationship, and I need space. I promise I'll come back at such and such time, or at least text you. But I am invested in this relationship. I don't want to be mean to you. I'm upset. I'm going to go care for myself. Again, this is a practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's going to happen like
I did.
time, or even like the first 500 times you do it. But that's like one piece. It's like, what if we just injected reassurance into our everyday? What would that look like for you? Like, think about it for a second. 5% more reassurance for yourself and other people in your life, what would that change? Just give yourself an opportunity to think about it. 5%. Okay, 1. If 5% seems big, just try 1%. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
It's just giving someone the opportunity to realign with their innate like connectedness with self, your higher self. And when you have someone's come to you and say words of love, kindness, generosity, whatever the communication is, it just gives you that level of deep connection and intimacy and reassurance. Just like you say, like, hey, you're doing a good job. Like, this is hard. What you're going through is hard. This is hard. I'm with you witnessing it. It's hard. Right? Like just hearing those words sometimes when you're going through something challenging is so, not that you want someone to be there with you, but it's validating like, oh wow, this really has been hard for me. It's not just me making it up, right? Like, and I'm working my process around it, but it's so nice to have someone come and confirm, hey, you're beautiful, you're worthy, you're enough, just as you are, regardless of what is going on your outside, regardless of the difficulty in this circumstance or regardless of how it's showing up.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Again, we're all so busy and so caught up in our own stuff that we forget that just a little bit. I mean, again, and if you want to change your life, this is like a 5-minute thing. It's like 2 minutes even. To remind someone that what their experience is really like their experience and it's really real. And to say, hey, I love you. I can't be in it with you, but I can be right next to you. I'm going to cheerlead you on.
I find what really is important, this is practice, is I look for where can I acknowledge their growth in their journey. So even though they're in it and they're in the heart of it, let's say you're witnessing someone lose their home and they're struggling, right? And this happened to my husband and I years ago, and so it was really a challenging thing to go through. And so, the best things that happened during that time were the people that came and reassured it's going to be okay. I don't know what's going to happen from this, but you're so strong, you're resilient, you've got this, and I see you really putting your effort in. I see you not giving up on yourself. I see you not giving up on your family. I see your resilience. I acknowledge it. And when you say those specific words to somebody, I acknowledge you for whatever it is. Acknowledge you for your commitment to your inner work. I acknowledge you for not giving up on yourself. I acknowledge you for the loving that you give to your family every single day, and the way you keep showing up in loving support. Like, I see your dedication. That people feel so seen when you can actually speak in those terms. It can dissolve like so many barriers for someone in a way that you don't even, it disarms their armor.
Exactly. What we forget, I think, in this world is that, again, I'm going to come back to this idea of looking good and how there's this idea that we can't, like, professionalism is not, showing any imperfections, or this idea that we're supposed to be perfect based on this societal belief system that perfection is a beauty standard or a financial bank account thing, or that, that, I mean, there's just like so many things around perfectionism, or this like idea of looking good, or being like that we all sort of place on ourselves and each other, that sometimes when we just are in someone's personal space, like if you know someone is like, maybe their dog's sick, or maybe they're sick, or maybe they're really struggling with some baby positive things that are moving in their life, and it's just overwhelming, and they're shutting the world down. Like there's so many things that if someone just says, hey, I love you, even though we haven't talked in 6 months, I still feel connection with you.
Hmm.
Not going anywhere. I'm watching you from the back end. I support you from the back end. I don't need your time and attention. I would like it. And I value you, and I see how hard you're working, and I see what you're struggling through. I mean, again, we're talking about, honestly, a minute amount of generosity, right? Like, and it's, again, we're talking about people who we want to be generous with, right? I'm not talking about people that I'm still like about. For everybody who's listening right now, I scrunched my face in ways that made me look angry and frustrated and like annoyed. It's like, I'm not, but even in those places, I still often find myself like, just because I have boundaries that I crossed or that person crossed doesn't mean that they're a bad person. And I still want them to thrive. Being generous, like for example, I have a person that I'm not really in connection with anymore, but I love their work in the world. I love their work in the world. And every time I see their work in the world on Instagram or Facebook or wherever I see it, I always give it a like and I always comment on it. It literally takes 15 seconds or 20, maybe even 2 minutes. Ooh, wow, 2 minutes of my life to show a little support, even though we're not talking. Again, it's a reassurance, a validation of their reassurance of like there was something there, reassurance that I still care, that our disrupt between us it doesn't mean anything about them, and it doesn't really mean anything about me. It means something about our dynamic, and the like little bit of generosity in my day to support their work. I mean, we live in a digital age, right? We live in a digital age where I can show up in a tiny bit of wild support where I can like someone's post or comment on it or share it out. Know? I mean, if you have a digital business, you may or may not know this, but that little engagement actually matters. That little bit of engagement actually matters. A reshare, a bookmark, a comment, that matters to people who have digital businesses. So when you're offering a minute amount of generosity, it's tiny. And generosity is incredibly important if we want to have a world that's going to be loving. If you want a loving world, it takes you being like reassuring and kind and generous to yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup. I mean, you can, but that creates resentments and people pleasing and lots of just degradations in your life. That's a whole self-abandonment piece, but that's a whole other conversation. But it's like being generous with yourself first, then being generous with other people. But I hate to break it, there's this cool thing that happens that when you're a little bit generous with someone else, it fills your cup.
It does fill your cup.
So if I reach out to someone who I know is having a hard time,
Generosity is such a high vibration. Like when you think about it, generosity is up there with like unconditional love. It's a high vibration. And so you can't be operating from a vibrational space of fear and generosity at the same time. They just don't, you're not there. So when you shift gears into generosity, you're tuning in to like the greater level of like abundance and loving and kindness. And it's a whole frequency, which is then opening the portal to like the goodness in your life and for you to acknowledge all the blessings in your life through being blessed and giving blessing. You know, when you give a little bit of generosity, it's blessing your life forward.
it also moves the energy. Right.
Mhm.
For everyone who's ever read any of the manifestation ideas or laws of attraction, it really does look like that. So if we're hoarding energy, and this happens to me all the time, when I'm freaked out and scared and I am grasping more, I get more of that, right? And when I actually, and it's not financial abundance. I'm not talking about generosity in a way that looks like financially or any other ways. I'm literally talking about generosity of
The
the
heart.
human spirit. If you know someone's going through a hard time, help them. If you know someone's going through cancer, text them. Hey, this has got to be hard for you.
And their caretakers and the ones that are supporting them. You know, like that, those people need deep reassurance because it's such a pivotal time in someone's life when someone is, you know, possibly dying, and the people that are caretaking for that person in that time, like it's so powerful to support those that are supporting the one that is in need. It's such a it's a sacred privilege and a right, spiritual rite of passage for each person involved.
Truly.
Mhm.
So when we're talking about relationships and we're talking about self-relationship and we're talking about all these bits, it's like, again, if I had a friend reach out to me after years and recently, and this person was really going through a hard time. And they wanted to pay me to talk to them because they were like, this is your work. And I was like, yes, thank you for honoring that. And no, we haven't talked in 7 years. What's going on? And what I found in just offering some of my time, that this person really wanted to be seen.
Mhm.
They wanted to have reassurance that they weren't just effed up or they weren't just messed up, or they weren't just, I use this term when you're very emotional because there's stuff in your life and it's overwhelming. I call it being an amoeba. You're just kind of like at the edges, and you're just kind of like this blob of cells, like, and they wanted to know that even being an amoeba was okay. And again, coming back to this perfectionism piece, is that when we force ourselves outside of humanity, like our true humanity, into being a machine, that we're literally like missing the whole point of spirituality, in my opinion. Like coming here to feel all that you can feel and to accept all that you can accept, and to be compassionate in this moment is the thing for me. Anyway, that's where I'm at. It's not to be, spiritually higher than, or to be like perfect and like have all of the ducks in the row. It's to sort of enjoy the crunch in the life and the blessings and the pleasure and all of that jazz. Like, it's about the connections we make and the collaborations we make. And it's about being vulnerable enough to even reach out. Mm-hmm. And so in this conversation with them, I was like, hey, you don't have to go through this alone. And this idea that you have to do that like that, that's like a societal pressure that no longer, it's not really that healthy. You don't have to do it alone. Thank you for reaching out. I've got you. Let me see if I can help you more in different ways. And that was literally what that person needed. Not a coaching session, but a person to reassure them that it's okay to have a hard time and that they're normal. A little reassurance goes a long way. A little reassurance goes a long way in relationships, especially when you're fighting. You are going to have conflict. I hate to break it to you, relationships have conflict, because there's my reality and my experiences in my past and every veil of past pain that I've ever lived through, and every blah, 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 like whatever. This comes in a whole package. And even though Dawn and I are best friends, if we live together, we're going to fight. Like, it's just going to happen. And it's about reassuring her that I'm still there when I'm being a brat.
When the crunch comes, that we're still connected.
I still want connection, and I am being a brat right now. Or you're crunchy. Or, like whatever projection that I'm going to have. And being like, I'm going to go away, and I love you. I promise I'll call you back in 2. Again, it's like, I know I've used this very kind of like specific tool. If you've noticed the rundown of the Reassurance, I'm just going to give it to you. Reassurance. Time frame. Well, reassurance, what I need, time frame, more reassurance, and actually showing up in the time frame. And then like committing to your, like actually following through with your agreements. This is what builds trust and safety in relationships. So it's like, if I can show up and be like, hey, it's okay, babe. I got you. You do you. I got you. Also another form of reassurance, if it's coming from an authentic place. Mm-hmm. Makes sense? I mean, honestly, maybe but I know. I can't even, God, tens of, and I'm gonna just be really like mild with it. I know at least my 5 people at least, but I know that it's on a that's a microcosm of the macrocosm of experience. I know so many people who are going through challenges right now and feel incredibly alone in it. I know so many people who are going through amazing life, like grand changes that are amazing, that are overwhelmed and just want to feel connected. Again, it's this, if we could, what did I call, inject reassurance into the mycelial network of friendship, ooh, we'd have so much yum in this world.
What really comes to mind in your sharing is also like, where are you not reassuring yourself daily? because it comes down to reassuring yourself, most importantly, regardless of your outside circumstances. Like, this is a really helpful tool for me and what has really supported me through some of the most challenging things I've gone through, and even the really challenging things I'm going through now. I just put my hand on my heart and I really remind myself that I have all the inner resources necessary to deal with whatever is going on in my life. And I affirm that, and I lean back into that inner support of like drawing upon the God within to be present and to call it forward, to call in the light of my, like, in my body temple, and to be present with the patterns that are going on in consciousness, and to really ask spirit to work with me with it, to help dissolve what is in the way. This is the way through, is to work with it and to surrender to it, be open and soft to the learning that's taking place inside of your soul, inside of your life, inside of your consciousness. It's all for learning. And so, what am I learning through this difficult thing, or advanced, powerful, transformational change in life, right? It doesn't always have to be difficult, but there are things that can be, like you said, overwhelming, or so much excitement that there's that too. It's like the edge of, like, it feels overwhelming because it's so exciting. There's also that. So, yeah, it's leaning in and trusting yourself completely, that regardless of the outside circumstances, this too shall pass. It will change. And we don't know the timeline, but you can lean in and get answers from within. You can get the support from within. You can lean on the truth inside and know that you are supported, you're loved, and you can affirm it. You affirm that truth in your life. You can affirm that, my love is enough and I'm supported right here where I'm at, regardless of dot, dot, dot.
Exactly. And I love that you brought that in, because, I mean, what did I tell? Okay, so I'm taking those 15 people through the self-secure program, and I was like, in a world where everyone's being really harsh on each other and themselves, stop being mean to yourself. Just stop it. Like how often do we sit here and be like, oh, we should be, or I should be, or I can't believe you did that, or like we're pushing our poor little humanity. Like, again, we're amazing CPUs, like these amazing brains with like vast understanding of many, many things in the world. And we're pushing these very clunky, very material bodies to the limits. There's a lot that we move through time and space. There is gravity. There's the weight of gravity on us every day, not including the weight of our own, like, where I would like to be and where I'm not be, our own judgments or someone else's judgments or society's judgments. And we really don't give ourselves enough credit, I don't think. So if we're just talking smack to ourselves all the time, of course we don't feel good. But if we're offering ourselves reassurance, one of the pieces that I brought in with this friend is like, what are you telling yourself?
What story are you creating? What is your ego story?
Well, I mean, they were being really hard on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you lost people in your life, and your life changed, and you bought a house, and you moved, and you're seeking partnership and in a very small community. Like, there's a lot going on, and you're kind of like asking yourself what's wrong with you. I'm like, well, nothing's wrong with you. Do you see the like stackers in your life? What if you chose to talk to yourself like you talk to your child? And they were like, oh my God, I am so mean to myself. I would never talk to my child like that. I was like, yeah, because you're a supportive parent. And they were like, oh, I could probably be more reassuring and more supportive and more of a personal cheerleader for myself.
You're reminding me of my morning with my son. I just had the sweetest, like, I woke him up this morning and I just sat next to him and leaned my head on his shoulder and like rubbed his back in the morning and just said, I love you, morning, softly, to wake him up. And he sat up, so I could do that. But it was just such a good feeling to like gently, softly wake him up to tell him he's loved. Then he's greeted in the morning that way.
What if we did that to ourselves?
Mhm.
Instead of waking up saying, "Wah, wah, wah, wah." I mean, especially if you are in challenging situations with your partner, especially if you're in challenging situations at work. Like the level of gratitude and reassurance and just generosity that we have to have with ourselves and the people we love, like we're living through a time right now. Like it's a full on time. And literally, like, again, I'm not talking about financial or like physical generosity. I'm literally talking about generosity of the spirit and the heart here. I'm really talking about like a reassurance that you still care for someone.
Mhm.
I'm gonna break it down to a real life thing here is that we are all going to die at some point. Our life is very short in the long scheme of things.
Mhm.
And that when we let people know how we care about them, even if we're mad, or even if we've got stuff about it, or even if we're judging them for the way they're living, that if we just literally send a text. So for some of you who have ADHD and texting is like a wild, difficult bit, put notes all over your house or put them in your calendar. But really, like, there's ways to hack those things. Is like if you're thinking about someone, just remind them that you love them or that they're doing a good job, even if they're struggling in the kiddie pool. Like we're all struggling in the kiddie pool in some ways, you know.
Mhm.
There's this idea. Someone was like, "It seems like you got it all together," to me, and I was like, "Oh, tell me more about how it looks on the outside," because I'm just like everybody else, swimming around and being like, "Wow," I'm like, have you seen okay, there's this meme going around, or it has gone around, and I love it so much because it's just so funny. There's a young kid with a boot. He's like on the ground with a boot on his head. And he's like being held down by the boot, and you're like, oh my God, there's a kid with a boot on his head. And it says before spiritual awakening. And then the next picture, you scroll over, and here's the same kid with the boot on his head, and his arm is in the boot with the boot on his head. And it says after spiritual awakening. And I think about this in a lot of senses of how we are the creators of our own ick. In some ways, I'm not saying that, like, again, I'm not bypassing that there's actually just random stuff that happens in the world that is tragic and real and awful. Like that's not it. But there's a lot of places where we get stuck in our own, like, I mean, if this didn't happen, there wouldn't be coaches and therapists. That we get stuck in our own fears, or we get stuck in our own kind of distorted,
Curriculum.
yeah, curriculum or distorted belief systems
Mhm.
around what the world is. Some of us can't let love in. Some of us are terrified of love because of things that happen to us as children or things that we believe or society's belief systems. Like there is just so much there. So again, a little bit of reassurance for yourself. It's the salve.
Mhm. It's the healing balm. Mhm. Loving. Being loving towards yourself no matter what's going on. Like, it's okay. It's okay to fully love yourself and embrace even the most challenging things or the part of your body that still hurts because it holds the memory of something unfinished, unfinished business, unfinished material, emotional material, right? And to just be loving towards that part of you that holds it. If it's grief or shame or sorrow or whatever it might be from who knows from where.
Yes.
And we can be loving towards our body, ourself, our consciousness, our learning, our life, all the people in our life.
Oh, here's someone that's going through class. I've been practicing since class, and it's such a beautiful shift. You know, I'm not talking about reassurance in the sense of like, oh, you're going to do fine. Well, that's a bypass. Or don't worry. Nobody wants to hear those things. I'm talking about reassurance in the sense of, hey, I'm here, or I've got you, or I see you. Again, we started this conversation with making them feel not making them, but, having them feel understood. Like that maybe their experiences are not something you've ever experienced, or maybe socially it's kind of on the outside of normal. You know how I feel about normal, everyone. But, it's on the outside of maybe experiences you've ever seen or other people. But it's helpful to show your friend that they're not weird or abnormal, and that this is, that they don't have to do it alone, and that other people have this experience. So ways to reassure someone is really to be available to them in some ways. Heck, remind them that you love them. Remind them that you see them in their work or in their struggle or in what they're going through. And then to be a good listener. If you have that capacity to listen to someone else's stuff, again, maybe you can't help them financially, but you can sure be like, hey, that's a really, really tough place to be. Again, you can also do this for yourself. Get present for yourself. Make space for you, for your actual care, for your actual nervous system, to care for it, for your actual writing or whatever, to find a way out of fear. So, and then to be an active listener for yourself, whatever that might look like. I don't know about you, but I talk to myself a lot. Like, oh, you're doing that thing again, Trish. You're doing that. No, I see you. I see you over there doing your like habit. It's cute. You know that it doesn't work, but we can go through this again. I'm in it with you. Like, I literally have that conversation with myself all the time. I'm like, all right, we're doing it again. Okay. Why? Why are we doing this? I'm literally just having the conversation because sometimes I don't have a person around me to check me, to check myself before I wreck myself, things like that. So, and then you can do this with yourself, right? Be a good listener. And then how do I help myself be understood? How do I acknowledge that this experience is this experience? And there's a couple really amazing tools around self-compassion. And I wanted to bring in a bit of Brene Brown. Can I take you through the practice? Yeah. All right. Let's just taking a moment to close your eyes. Oh, thank you. Well, hello. Taking a moment to close your eyes. If you can, if you're driving, don't do this. But I know that your mind's eye can imagine what's going to happen without having to close your eyes. Take the tongue off the roof of your mouth. Drop your jaw. Let your shoulders relax. Let your eyebrows relax, your chest relax. Even if you're driving, just kind of let wherever you're holding tension, your shoulder, just kind of let your body relax rather than holding it. Open your mouth just a slight bit. And think about something that you're having a challenge with. Something maybe internal. Give yourself an opportunity to name your feelings. What's happening for you? What are the sensations? What's the emotions? And giving yourself an opportunity to say, hey, this is hard. What I'm going through is hard. Some people handle it differently, and I don't need to judge myself against them. Maybe they have different resources that I don't know. But what I'm going through is hard for me, and I'm doing my best here. And then dropping down a little lower. And imagine you're talking to your best friend or your little you. And offer your little you, like you as your best friend. What would your best friend say to you? What would you say to your best friend if you were going through this? I'm certain that you wouldn't be like, suck it up. I'm certain you'd be like, wow, hey, I see you in this. I see you in the struggle. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to abandon you in judgment. I'm not going to abandon you in, forcing you to be something that you're not or get out of the situation. I want to be here right here in this with you right now. Say that to yourself. I want to be right here, right now. One of the things that I like to say is, I'm here with me now. I'm not running away from the hardships of my life or the conflicts. I'm right here. I'm in it with me now. I'm choosing this. And it's okay that I'm having a hard time. And let your mind kind of just think about a way that you can be a little bit more reassuring to you. I love you. I live in you every day. I'm in your body. I'm in your mind, and I love you. Put your hand on your back. Imagine yourself walking hand in hand, knowing that you've got you. Even if you're single, even if you're married, even if you're in a polyamorous relationship or celibate or whatever it might be. Like, imagine that you are your partner in this lifetime. That you can lean back into that big back support of the universe or your own love. Because you know your own vastness of your own love. Give it to you. A little bit of reassurance right now. And imagine injecting a little reassurance for yourself and other people in your day right now. Like, what does that look like in your day? Today, even. Or throughout the week. Or next year. Again, you're doing a lot. Living in this life is a lot. And it's okay. It's okay to be where you're at. Don't worry. I've got you. Got your hand. Got your back. And again, you can come back in any moment right now and just know that you've got you. Just a little reassurance goes a long, long, long way.
Long way.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for initiating reassurance into our world today, and how I hope this ripples out into the world and sparks deep conversations and deep loving experiences with our loved ones.
Mm. Yeah.
I love that.
Anything that you'd like to share about reassurance?
It just comes back to like reassuring self, and affirming that you have all the inner resources necessary to navigate whatever circumstances are outwardly going on for you. And how you relate to the issue is the issue. Support yourself through that. Remind yourself that you're loving is enough. And it's okay that you're experiencing what you're experiencing, and that you're completing something through this and you're learning through it. And what is my soul learning through this experience? If you can like shift into the learning and start to acknowledge the learning and the growth, then you shift away from whatever the tension or the difficult energy, and you can start to open up. And then when you start to apply just deep love to the part inside that hurts or that's going through something, and really reassure that young one that's experiencing it. Maybe it's your 5-year-old, maybe it's your 8-year-old, maybe it's your 15-year-old, angry 15-year-old. You know, I had to work a lot with my angry 15-year-old for myself. So, you know, it depends on what's going on in your world, that it's tied to other pieces of your life. So it's really important to reassure that young one inside that's experiencing the hurt or the fear or the frozen or the uncertainty, you know, of life. And just to remind it, I'm right here with you. You did nothing wrong. I'm right here with you. Like, that's such a reassuring, loving way to talk to yourself and the part inside that hurts, to remind it, like, it's okay. I'm right here with you. I'm never going to leave your side. I'm with you.
I love that. And it reminds me of, you got to remember that everyone's just doing the best they can
True.
with what they got. Some of us got really amazing, like, communication, conflict resolution skills. Some of us got that. Some of us have spent their lives
Developing it.
developing it. And some of us have no capacity to even learn new skills. So when we're looking at other people and judging them for wherever they're at, A, it's a judgment on self as well. It's also a pointer to a value or a need for you. And it's not really seeing the person showing up as they are or meeting them there in compassionate love. So when we see these people who are doing their life, like, to actually see that, damn, you're doing the best you can right now with the skills you got. That's another form of reassurance. And you're doing the best you can with what you got. You weren't dealt with a, you weren't dealt with a good hand. In fact, you get dealt crap cards all the time because maybe that's the way that your brain works, is that it attracts this thing. Like, who knows what it could be? Maybe you live in a really impoverished area that you don't have opportunity. Maybe you have levels of the oppressive matrix on you that you can't seem to get out of. These are all mindsets, right? These are all ways of living. And maybe some people just don't see you or value you for who you are because of maybe how you present or a disability that you have, or God, it could be like a long list of things. So when you're just reassuring someone, you're validating their humanity. Hey, I see you working at it. I see you struggling. I know it's a lot in this world. So I know that you have to go. I'm going to keep chatting for a little bit because I know you got something to do with your family. But I'm going to take us to the full hour, so it works for KPFZ and all of that jazz. But we love you, Dawn.
Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
So again, just to kind of wrap up the conversation on reassurance, is that we started off with the reassurance of like being generous of the heart, generosity and kindness. And I'm not saying that we should bypass boundaries or getting angry. Like, I'm not one of those people. I think that all emotions have valid reason to be there and teach us everything, and that we should express them in healthy ways. And that offering a slight bit more generosity and reassurance to the people that we love in the world, especially if we're in conflict with them, especially if you know a sensitivity they have. One of the things that I learned in my 8 years of exploration into polyamory is that, again, reassurance goes a long, long way, just a little bit. to remind someone that they're still valid, that they're still loved, that there's safety and collaboration and communication, and that you want to be there. And it might feel like, why does this person need this? But instead of thinking it like that, like a chore, to make it a gift that you give them that will calm their nervous system. A little generosity goes a long way in both or in all relationships, in your family members, with your mom, dad, sister, brother, children, partner, even boss, even the people who work underneath you, but a little bit of reassurance that they're on the right path, or that you can see them doing their work or struggling. One of the ways that I live this is with my work with the independent contractors that I work with. So I have a small team, and even Dawn Light. I have a small team in Dawn Light that I like to remind them wherever they're at. Sometimes one of my assistants needs to be with her child. Fine. Or they're sick. As long as they're communicating, that's great. And I'm like, hey, don't worry about it right now. I know that you've got this in your mind. I know that you want to do this. And you know what? Taking care of your body is important. Taking care of your spirit and your family is important. Standing up for yourself is important. It's reminding people, a little reassurance reminds people of their humanity, of what's really alive in the world, which is not exactly perfectionism. Again, there's a lot of judgment and heaviness in the world. We don't really need to offer that to ourselves. We've got that. We've got the programming to give us insecurities and make us wonder if we're good, bad, or if we're lovable. But try not to do that to yourself. Give yourself a little reassurance today, just a little bit. Give the people in your life who maybe are in conflict that you can offer a little reassurance. Just a little bit goes a long way. So I really appreciate you all showing up today and watching and listening if you're, on the podcast or on the radio station, because I know that your time is incredibly valuable. It's the most precious resource you have, the most non-renewable resource that you have. And sharing your time, whether it's with us live or whether it's in the future or maybe in the past, who knows, that I do really appreciate your time and your energy for showing up for you and showing up for us and showing up for the people you love in your life. This work is not easy, and I see you, even though I don't see you, but I see you liking it, and I see you sharing it, and I see all those things, and I see you communicating with me, and I see you in your work, whether you're engaging or not. So thank you for being here. And I'd like to thank Love Coach Academy, Scott Katamas, Sign Network, Global Peace Tribe, KPFZ, and our friend Dawn Light, and our team, Roy and Russell, for being freaking amazing all the time and working through their human stuff to have this show up for you. So you can see us next week, same time, same place. You can also find us on Spotify and YouTube. In case you want to watch this later, you can also find us on Facebook at Self-Love Show. And yeah, see you next week, same time, same place.